We were Echo Company, 2nd Platoon. 9 months into our deployment, we were sent to clear a village called Al-Hadar. Intel said it was a stronghold. It turned out to be a tomb. We went in at dawn. It was quiet. Too quiet. No animals, no wind, just the crunch of our boots on dry earth. We cleared house after house. Nothing. No insurgents, no civilians, not even a stray dog. Then we found the well. It was in the center of the village, an ancient thing made of dark stone. Our sergeant, a hard man named Kowalski, had done 3 tours, walked up to it, looked down, and went completely still. His face, always a mask of grit, just melted. His rifle slipped from his hands and clattered on the stones. "Sir?" I asked. He turned to us. His eyes were empty. "They're all down there," he whispered. "All of them. The whole village." He pointed a shaking finger. "They're looking up at me." We pulled him away. He didn't resist. He just sat against a wall, muttering. For the rest of the day, he was a ghost. He wouldn't speak, wouldn't eat. He just stared at nothing. That night, on patrol, he disappeared. 1 second, he was at the rear of the column. The next, he was gone. We searched for hours. Nothing. It was like the desert had swallowed him. The next day, we found him. He was back at the village, standing at the edge of the well. He was naked from the waist up, his skin caked with dust. He was talking to someone down in the blackness. "Kowalski!" Our lieutenant shouted. He turned. His chest was a mess of scarred, angry scratches, like he'd been clawing at himself. But it was his eyes that stopped us cold. They weren't empty anymore. They were full. Full of something ancient and patient. "I saw them," he said, his voice raspy. "They weren't dead. They were waiting. They've been waiting for a long time. For someone to listen. For someone to understand." "Understand what?" the lieutenant asked, his rifle half raised. Kowalski smiled. "It was the most terrible thing I've ever seen. That the worst monsters aren't the ones you fight. They're the ones you leave behind. The ones who watch. The ones who learn." He took a step back and fell into the well. We heard him hit the water. Then silence. No splash for help. No struggle. Just silence. We didn't sleep that night. We could feel them watching us from every shadow, every crack in every wall. A week later, back at base, we were considered combat ineffective. Sent home. But we brought something with us. It started with little things. A soldier in my squad, Martinez, woke up screaming, clawing at his own chest. He said he dreamed of being at the bottom of a well, looking up at faces that used to be his friends. Then Private First Class Davis stopped talking. He just sat on his bunk, staring at the wall. When they tried to move him, he whispered, "I'm listening. They're teaching me." One by one, my brothers from Echo Platoon started to change. They grew distant. Their eyes took on that same patient, ancient look. They'd scratch at themselves in their sleep. And they'd always whisper about listening. In the last one, I'm writing this in a room with the lights on, my back to the wall. I can still hear the desert wind, even though I'm 1,000 miles from it. And sometimes late at night, when the world is quiet, I hear a whisper from the corner of my room. It's Kowalski's voice. He's not asking me to come to the well. He's telling me the well is everywhere now. And they're still waiting. For you. I was a clerk at the National Personnel Records Center, a boring job in a massive, windowless building in St. Louis. My job was to archive old military files. World War II, Korea, Vietnam. Dusty boxes, yellowed paper, forgotten lives. One day, a box came in from a deep storage facility. It was marked with a code ID never seen, project, hush. No unit designation. No date. Just that. Curiosity killed the cat, right? I opened it. Inside were personnel files for a unit of about 50 men. They all had one thing in common. In the box labeled next of kin, next to the space for their mother's name, their father's name, their wife's name, someone had typed the same thing in every single file. No one will come looking. Their service records were bizarre. Deployments to places I'd never heard of. Codename locations. They'd be deployed for a month, then have a single line entry, reintegrated, then deployed again. I dug deeper, cross-referencing unit numbers. I found one surviving record from a field hospital. It was a single page, a psychiatrist's notes on a soldier from the unit. It read, "Patient believes he was deployed to a non-physical theater. Claims the enemy is not of this world, but a conceptual threat that feeds on human belief and memory. Patient states his mission was to be forgotten, so the enemy would have no anchor in our reality. He says the only way to win was to ensure no one ever knew they fought. He is lucid, coherent, and terrified. He begs me to forget this conversation. Diagnosis: severe combat stress reaction. Recommendation: administrative discharge and memory suppression therapy. Memory suppression therapy? I'd never heard of it. I found the patient's name, Private First Class Elias Vance. I looked him up in the current database. He was listed as deceased, 1952. But there was no death certificate. Just a note: subject reintegrated into civilian population. Status: living. I was hooked. I found an address: an old farmhouse in rural Missouri. I drove there on a Saturday. An old man answered the door. He must have been in his 90s. Frail. But his eyes were sharp and terrified. "Mr. Vance?" I asked. "My name is—" "I know who you are," he whispered, his voice dry as dead leaves. "You're from the center. You found the box." I nodded. "I just have some questions about project." "Hush." He laughed. It was a hollow, awful sound. "They told us we'd be forgotten. They said that was the point. That the enemy feeds on memory, on belief. If no one remembers us, if no one knows we fought, the enemy has nothing to eat. It starves." He invited me in, his hands shaking. "We won," he said, sitting down heavily. "We fought them in the spaces between thoughts. We lost good men. They were erased completely. No one remembers their names. Not even me. That's how it has to be." "Then why are you still alive?" I asked. He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of something other than fear. I saw malice. "They missed one," he said. "They forgot to forget the one who remembers the forgetting. Me. I'm a leak. A crack in the dam. And the enemy, it's patient. It's been waiting for someone to come looking. For someone to remember." He leaned forward, his ancient hand grabbing my wrist with surprising strength. His eyes were wide, not with fear, but with a terrible, ancient knowledge. "You shouldn't have opened the box, son," he breathed. "You've remembered us. You've given them a new anchor. A new place to feed. They're not in the past. They're in your mind now. They're in your memory of reading this. They're coming for you, just like they came for us." I pulled away and ran. I drove all night, back to St. Louis. I went straight to the records center. I had to destroy the box. I had to forget. The box was gone. The shelf was empty. There was no record of it ever being checked in. No record of Project Hush. No record of Elias Vance. I went back to the farmhouse. It was a burned-out shell. It had been that way since 1952. I'm writing this now, but my hands are shaking. I can feel them. In the corner of my eye. In the static on my monitor. They're not ghosts. They're something worse. They're the forgotten things that remember us. And they're hungry. If you're reading this, forget it. Forget you ever saw my name. Forget this story. Because if you remember, they'll remember you too. And they're always looking for a new war. I was a K9 handler. My partner was Rex, a 7-year-old Belgian Malinois. A living weapon with 300 million scent receptors and a bite force that could crush bone. We had done 3 deployments together. He was more than a dog. He was my brother. He slept at the foot of my bunk. He knew my moods before I did. Our last mission was a night raid on a compound. It was supposed to be routine. Clear the building, grab the target, get out. We breached the door. Rex went in first, a silent shadow. I followed. The room was dark. My night vision lit up the world in green. I saw Rex stop dead in the center of the room. He wasn't alerting. He wasn't growling. He was just frozen. His tail, always a rigid line of focus, was tucked so far between his legs he looked like he had no tail at all. Then he screamed. Not a bark, not a yelp. A high, piercing scream of pure animal terror. He turned and bolted. He ran straight past me, out the door, and vanished into the night. I called for him for hours. The mission was aborted. We searched until dawn. Nothing. My partner was gone. A week later, we got a report of a wild dog attacking livestock near a village 10 miles from the compound. I went alone. I found him in an abandoned barn. He was skeletal, his coat matted with mud and blood. But it was his eyes that broke me. The light was gone. They were flat, black, and absolutely empty. I knelt down. Rex. Hey, buddy. It's me. He didn't wag his tail. He didn't even twitch an ear. He just stared through me. Then slowly he opened his mouth. A low, guttural sound came out. It wasn't a growl. It was a voice. A human voice. broken, halting, but undeniably human. Don't go in the dark, it rasped. He's in the dark. I stumbled back, my heart hammering against my ribs. Rex? The dog, my dog, took a step towards me. His movements were wrong. Stiff. Mechanical. Like something was learning to wear his skin. He showed me, the voice continued, REX's mouth moving awkwardly around the words. Showed me what lives in the spaces between the seconds. It's hungry. It's always been hungry. It wore the faces of the men in the compound. It followed me. It's here now. My blood turned to ice. I looked around the barn. Just shadows and old hay. It wants a new skin, REX's body said. A better one. One that can speak. One that can open doors. It took another step. I'm sorry, brother. Then it lunged. Not to bite, but to embrace. I shot him. I shot my best friend. I emptied my magazine into the creature that wore his fur. I sat in the barn for hours, holding him, until the sun came up. The military wrote it off as a stress-induced episode. They said the trauma of the mission made me hallucinate. They gave me a medal and a medical discharge. But they don't know what I know. Sometimes late at night, I hear a scratching at my door. Not a dog's scratch. A deliberate, rhythmic scratch, like a finger. And a low, guttural voice whispers through the wood. Let me in, brother. The dark misses you.